Norway is one of the most beautiful countries in Europe, and if you think about going there with your dog, we can highly recommend it. In today's video, we will share everything you need to know for your adventure with your fluffy friends. This summer we took our Samoyed Felix on a 2-week road trip all the way from southern Norway to the north and explored so many beautiful spots along the way. Before we started our journey, we had to do some planning to make sure we wouldn't have any problems along the way. So let's start from the beginning. First up are entry regulations. Norway is not part of the European Union, which makes entering a bit more difficult compared to other countries. If your dog has a passport from a country in the European Union, you need to do a worm treatment between 5 to 1 day before entering. It has to be a specific one and your vet needs to state it in the passport. The dog also needs a valid rabies vaccination. If your dog is not from the European Union, the entry regulations are a bit different. Check out the link down below in the description to learn more. Let's now talk about how to get there. You could take a plane, but if your dog is too big to fit into a box that fits under an airplane seat, it needs to travel alone in the luggage compartment of the plane. We've tried that with Felix several times in the past, but we wouldn't do it again unless there is no other option. Our preferred way to travel is always by car and boat. The best way to reach Norway overland is from the harbor Hertshals in Denmark. The boat ride to Kristiansand in Norway only takes a bit more than 2 hours and is very convenient. We paid around 200 euros for 2 people, a car and Felix. On the ferry there are signs that dog needs to stay in the car, but we quickly found out that no one follows these rules. You can bring your pup to the outdoor terrace, and if it gets too cold or windy you can stay inside in the lounge next to the terrace. During our ride there were around 25 dogs. The next point is about what to pack. The weather in Norway can get pretty rough, and even in summer it's usually not that hot. If your dog doesn't have a warm coat, make sure to pack a jacket. In June, when we were there, we often had to pass deep snow. Felix is a sled dog, so he loved this, but for some dogs it might be a great help to have some shoes. We linked Felix travel equipment in the description down below. Let's continue with how to get around. If you really want to see the country, you need a car, because many places are far away from towns and not that easy to reach by public transport. The streets are extremely narrow and curvy, so it can be difficult for dogs to sleep while driving. And the streets often just end, and it's required to drive on a ferry with your car to cross a fjord. The rides are cheap and only take 5 to 10 minutes, and you can also just stay in the car. You don't have to get out because it's just so quick and easy. Okay, by now you know that you can bring your dog to Norway, but you've probably wondered if the country is actually dog friendly, and I can definitely say yes. Most activities in Norway are outdoor anyway, so you can always bring your dog. There are also many dog friendly restaurants and hotels available. If you plan to do a road trip like we did, we highly recommend to rent a camper van or to go in your own if you have one. This way you always have your home with you and you can park it with the most stunning nature around. In Norway, there's also something called the everyman's ride, which means that you are allowed to park wherever you want overnight, unless there's some signs saying that it's not allowed, but usually it is. And sometimes we also stayed at campgrounds, and all of them were dog friendly too. But please keep in mind that dogs are not allowed to run off leash most of the year because there's so much wildlife in Norway. To make the most out of your Norway trip, I will also give you an overview about what to do, and definitely go hiking. Within the 2 weeks we went on 8 hikes and all of them were so special. This video would get too long if I would share all the hikes in detail, but if you want to know more, you can check out our Norway videos on our family account, The Travel Tellers. I will also link it for you down below. And over here I will just share the hikes we did and how difficult they are for a dog. But please keep in mind that Felix is a rather big dog with 32 kilograms who doesn't mind to walk long distances because he's very fit. Okay, the first hike we did was the hike to Bolten, which is this famous stone snug between 2 cliffs. And in terms of difficulty, I would rate it an 8 out of 10 because it's very steep and some parts require your dog to jump up. We also did the Pike hike, and I would rate it a 4 out of 10 in terms of difficulty because it's a rather short hike and easy to do. The third hike we did was the one to Trolltunga, and to be honest, before we did it I was pretty scared if we will actually manage to reach the end because it's very long, and after doing it I would give it a 9 out of 10 in terms of difficulty. So the hike itself is not that difficult when there's not so much snow, but it just takes very long. On the way back, Felix was super exhausted, and that's why we would recommend to bring a tent and actually stay there overnight. And please only do it when your dog is fit. We saw some dogs along the trail, but during the whole day, maybe 4 dogs in total, and all of them were rather big and pretty fit. Our favorite hike was the one to Skagefla, which is an old farm, and in terms of difficulty I would give it a 4 out of 10. First you're taking a speedboat, which is like a roller coaster ride, and then you just have to climb very steep uphill, but it's not that difficult, there are even some steps, and in the end you just get the most amazing reward. It was our favorite. We also hiked to Reinholden, which is located on the Lofoten Islands, and in terms of difficulty I would give it a 7 out of 10. The whole hike are basically just steps going steep up the mountain, and to be honest, doing this was not fun at all, but the view from the peak is just incredible, you have to do it. Another hike on the Lofoten Islands is the one to Valvika Beach, and in terms of difficulty I would give it a 4 out of 10. The hike itself is just so nice and so much fun, just don't skip it, it's amazing. We also did the hike to Matild, which was super nice. In terms of difficulty it only gets a 6 out of 10. Some parts were steep, but overall it wasn't that hard, and I mean you can see how beautiful it looked, so yeah, it's amazing. The last hike we did was the one to Zigla. It gets a 10 out of 10 in terms of difficulty. It was just a nightmare. And to be honest, we only did it by accident because we took a wrong turn along the way. We actually wanted to go to another mountain, and it was just extremely steep and very dangerous. At some parts we couldn't even walk, we had to go down on all fours. And I wouldn't do it again, and I also wouldn't recommend it to anyone to do it. That's it with the hiking part. Here are now just a few more tips to make your trip perfect. The first tip is to bring your own dog food. Norway is one of the most expensive countries in the world, and if you are able to travel by car, just bring all the food you will need for the trip with you. This way you can save lots of money because you don't have to buy it there. The next tip is about the travel season. You can basically travel Norway all year round, and in winter you might even be lucky to see the northern lights above the Arctic Circle, but please keep in mind that most of the hikes mentioned above can not be done during winter because it's too dangerous and there's lots of snow. The best time to actually travel to Norway is from June to August, and during our 2 weeks in June we only had 1 day of rain, which was very nice. The next tip is just be careful. Taking pictures close to the edge looks very stunning, but please be careful and don't risk your life for a stupid photo. And most importantly, just have fun. Everyone was so friendly to us and Felix, and the nature looked really stunning, so it was hard not to enjoy this trip. That's already the end of the video. We really hope that it was helpful, and if you want more dog travel tips, you can check out our dog travel ebook. It's also linked in the description down below. Please give the video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Happy travels, and we will see you next Sunday. Bye bye!